Congratulations on purchasing your animal skin tanning kit. My name is Adam Cowie and I will lead you through the processing steps needed for you to produce tanned skin of lasting quality. The tanning of animal skins is one of the oldest professions in the world and has come a long way since the days of the cavemen. Back then, skins were air dried and worn for warmth, but once they got wet, they would putrefy and fall to pieces. Over time, it was found that by soaking skins in certain solutions of tree barks and leaves, the tannins were absorbed by the skin, and this led to the early vegetable tanning methods. It was also found that certain fats and oils from fish and animals gave the tanned skin some softness and water resistance. And so, over time, things progressed and man learnt new and better ways to turn an animal skin from a raw state into a tanned leather of good softness and durability, and most importantly, would not rot while being worn. The tanning process involves changing the structure of the collagen fibres through various stages to create a cross-linking or bonding of the chemicals to the collagen chains, and in doing so produces leather. Nowadays, there are many new and varying technologies in use depending on the type of leather being produced and the end use of that leather. The chemicals in this kit are most widely ones used around the world at present. They are easy to use and give a durable and soft final result that you can be proud of. The chemicals provided in this kit are relatively harmless in such small quantities. Yet in saying that, I would encourage you to wear the safety gear provided and use common sense when using the chemicals and disposing of the wash liquors. There is only enough chemical in each kit to tan the skin type required. Please use up all the chemicals at each stage in the process. The only chemical not provided in this kit is salt, of which you would generally need 4 kilos, and any old type of salt will do. I would encourage you to watch this DVD as I talk you through each stage of the process. These same stages are written in the written form as per the instruction sheets provided. As you go through each stage, ensure you do exactly as instructed so that you get a good final result. So let's begin to convert your raw skin into a tanned product that you can use for a very long time. Okay, so we've got our deer skin. Can either be salted or frozen. Once you've skinned it, you either put it in your freezer to keep it for a while or put plenty of salt on it like this one, and that'll just stop the hair from any bacterial action causing any hair slip. So as you can see, this one's well salted, so we're going to fill up our barrel now and soak it back so that we get it back to its original hydrated state. We're going to add in here a detergent which will help wet it back, and then also a bactericide and a hair fixing agent that just helps set the hair in place and helps prevent any hair slip, because obviously that's the last thing we want when we're trying to tan it for a rug. So we put their salted skin in there and we'll give it a good stir around. You'll notice that deer skins especially will float to the top. That's because the hair is hollow, so it's important to give it a good stir around. So we're just going to leave that in the barrel for a couple of days and just stir it regularly. Now here a couple of days later, we'll take the skin out. It's all fully wet back and rehydrated, and we have to flesh it, which basically involves getting all the meat and the fat off that you can. There's different ways of doing this. I'm using a half board, putting it over a board, and I've got a fleshing blade, which is a pretty blunt sort of a knife. If it's too sharp, you'll end up putting holes in the skin, and if it's too blunt, you probably won't get much of the meat and the fat off. but you could do this over a barrel. You could just use a blunt knife. You could even try and just use your hands to rip it off. It's important just to try and get as much off as you can so that later on the chemicals can penetrate through properly. You can see here I'm just trimming off all the rough bits, giving it a good clean up. This one's fairly clean already. Obviously that depends on how well you skin the animal. So you just work your way around the skin, but yeah, you could do this over a table, a bench or a barrel. The important thing is just to try and get all the meat and the fat off it. Okay, so we've got all the fat off that now. It's looking pretty clean. Looking good. So now we just want to put it back in the barrel. I want to give it a rinse with some detergent and also some alkali. That'll just help get the grease out of it, give it a good clean. So I'm just putting in the detergent there. You also want to make sure that you're putting in 40 litres of water, and you want to have it no warmer than 35 degrees, because the amounts I've worked out have been for 40 litres per skin. So this is the amount of chemical was worked on a grams per litre basis. And yeah, don't go over 35 degrees, otherwise you risk shrinking the skin, because the skins will shrink above 40 degrees. So yeah, just make sure it's no hotter than 35. But the warmer it is, the more grease you'll get out of it. Okay, so we'll just stir that vigorously for 10 minutes at 35 degrees, and that'll help drag some grease out of it. And then we're going to drain it off. Okay, so we've stirred that for about 10 minutes. Now we'll take it out. Drain off that liquor. That's pretty much just detergent and a bit of grease, so that can pretty much be drained anywhere. Same with all the other drains where you have to empty the barrel. At this stage they can all just go down the drain or onto the grass. There's no harm in that, and all the chemicals are sort of biodegradable there, so there's no problem. I'm going to refill the barrel now. This is just with cold water. We're just going to give this deer hide a bit of a rinse to rinse out any excess fat and detergent. So again, roughly about 40 litres, although it isn't too important here, you're just trying to rinse it out, so probably the more water the better. That particular barrel is about 120 litres, and there's plenty of those barrels around if you want to try and find one to use for this sort of thing. Plenty of second-hand dealers and those sort of people will have them. Alright, so we'll just give that a quick stir around, get all the excess grease out of it, detergent. Okay, so we've done that for a few minutes. And a good squeeze out. The skin at this stage should be looking pretty clean. Just let that drain off for a bit. Okay, so we're getting our next solution ready, and this is the pickling solution, which is pretty much stage 3 of your process on the instruction sheet. So we need 40 litres of cold water, which is what I'm filling up now. Okay, so we add our 40 litres of cold water to the barrel. This is step 3 of the process on your instruction sheet. Then you add your 4 kilos of salt. Any old salt will do. And it's important here that the salt has to be fully dissolved before we add the skin and add the acid to the pickle. So you have to stir it vigorously to get it all dissolved. This pickle stage preserves the skin in a state which is prior to the main tanning stage, but it is important that we have enough salt in there so that the skin doesn't acid swell. And just remember that when you're adding your acid, that you wear your gloves and your safety goggles. Okay, so we put our deer skin back in the barrel once the salt is dissolved, and we add the acid to that, and then we're just going to stir this around occasionally for the next 3 days. So here's our diluted acid, diluted down with water. And stir that. Okay, here's our pickled skin. We've just taken it out to drain overnight. Now we're going to brush on the tanning chemical, which is made up of tanning powder 1, tanning powder 2 and the tanning liquid mixed in with 1 litre of hot water. And now just use a brush or a rag to brush this into all the corners of the skin. So just to reiterate that there's 3 chemicals will go into this tanning solution, and they'll be labelled in your kit as tanning powder 1, tanning powder 2 and tanning liquid. So all those 3 get mixed together as per the instructions on the containers, which gives you this green solution. And then you see there I'm just using a brush to brush it all on, and you do this a few times over the next few days. As it soaks in, come back tomorrow and put another layer on. It's quite important that your pickled skin is just drained overnight before we do this, just so that it's not too wet and it's had a little bit of time to dry out a little bit. Just work it around the edges and make sure there's plenty down the backbone and around the butt, as they're the thicker areas of the skin. So it's important that this tanning liquid penetrates right through the skin. That's why you come back and you just keep repainting it and brushing it on until you've used up all the liquid. So it's just like that. Okay, so we've done that for a few days. Now we've got a nice blue skin, and now we're putting on the softening oil. Again, just dilute that down in some hot water, same as per the instruction sheet, and do the same as what you did with the tanning solution. Just brush it all over the skin. As it soaks in, brush some more on until you've used up all your softening oil. Putting this on just means that when it's dry, you will be able to soften it up and it won't dry really hard. It'll give some softness to the skin. important, don't leave it out in direct sunlight, just let it dry off slowly, let the chemicals sink in slowly. You don't want to force it, otherwise you're going to just end up drying on the surface and the chemicals won't penetrate into the middle of the skin. Okay, so our oil is soaked into the skin. Now all we have to do is tack it out so that we can dry the skin out. So just on a wall or on a big piece of board like I've got here, just make sure it's a flat surface that you can tack into. And it's here that you sort of set the final shape of the skin, so it's important to try and keep it as symmetrical as possible and to stretch it out into a proper form. So you can see I'm doing it under a bit of tension there so that it sits nice and flat in the final result. Usually find it easier if you do the top and the bottom, get that all tight and then work your way around the sides. Right, so once you've done that, just want to let it dry off slowly. Try and keep it out of direct sunlight. You don't want it to over dry on the surface and the inside of the skin not dry out very well. So yeah, just keep it in a cool, dry place out of the direct sun. But anyway, it sort of looks like that, and leave that until it's dry. Come back now and it is dry, and this is the last stage of the process. Can be a bit rough on the flesh side of the skin, so you can try and smooth some of that rough flesh off. Here I'm using just a sander to try and buff it off a wee bit. It's really just a cosmetic thing to make it look a wee bit more presentable. Even though this side, you're not going to see this side, it's on your floor or your wall. It's easier to do this while the skin's still under tension, tacked out on the board, rather than trying to do it once you've taken it off. So just work your way around it, just buffing off any rough fleshy patches. can try using a wire brush or something like that if you haven't got a sander. So I'm using a wire brush here just to try and rip off the rough stuff. Clean all the loose hairs off it. So once we've done that, we'll just take the nails out, take it off the board, and we can just soften it up and it'll be just about finished. The skin's fully tanned now, so it's not going to go off. It'll be durable and you'll be able to use it for a long time. The hair's not going to fall out. It's dry cleanable. If you did want to get it dry cleaned in the future, you could take it to a dry cleaner. They would be able to dry clean it for you. It's not going to do it any harm. It would probably soften it. So we've got it off the board and just trim up all the loose edges, all the frayed pieces on it. This also helps shape the skin and make it look quite symmetrical. And just going around trimming off those rough edges. The final shape that you get on your skin will depend a lot on how well it's been scun. If it was taken off correctly, then you should get quite a true shape. So now it's just a matter of trying to soften it. You can see I can sort of just do it with my hands and Work it with your hands to soften it up, or you can try doing this over a bench or a table. It's just a matter of working your way around the skin and giving you a good rub. Just give the hair a final sort of brush up to tidy it up. Get off any little bits of flesh that might be stuck in the skin, stuck in the hair. And that is basically it. Congratulations, you've finished your first deer hide. It's ready for your floor or your wall or your back of your sofa.